You can always tell that you've slept a long time when you dream for what seems like a long time. And I seem to dream for an exceptionally long time. I just figured it was my mind refreshing itself after such a trying time. Yet opening my eyes, I could see that it was midday outside. Though I felt refreshed, I was incredibly stiff, and not in the fun way. I'm sure everyone has had their joints crack a little when they stretch out in the morning, but nothing like this. With every movement, my joints popped and cracked loud enough to reverberate around the house. Slowly, I stood up, reaching for any glass that may have water in it. Coming up empty, literally, I stood all the way up so I could walk to the kitchen. As I did so, the sounds of my joints got louder. However, that wasn't the strangest part. I could feel something touching my wings, my tail, and nearly everything else. Looking at my body, I was covered in a layer of dead skin, a thick layer of skin that was either flaking off or sliding off of me as I stand up. Brushing some of it off of my arms and legs, I didn't think twice about it. That is, until I wiped off my head. A small bit of hair I have is now extended from the back of my skull to about halfway down my neck. On top of that, the hair is now about 8 inches long. Audibly cursing, I was wondering how long I had actually been asleep. Looking at myself in the mirror, I could see that my body had atrophied a lot while I was asleep, though what was left of my formerly large body was now decidedly more human than the last time I saw it. Don't get me wrong, I was still covered in scales. However, my bone structure had changed significantly. As I walked back a few steps, I got a full view in the mirror. I realized that my movements seemed more graceful than before. I wasn't a lumbering creature anymore. There was a noticeable sway to the way I walked. It freaked me out a little bit when I thought about it, just as much as looking at how thin my tail had gotten. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't a rat's tail by any stretch, but since lizards like me store nutrients in their tail, I was a bit concerned. As I pondered the ramifications, I was interrupted by someone grabbing me from the back and squeezing me real hard. Turning my head, I could see that the elder doll was holding onto my back. She was hunched over a little so that she could reach around my wings, but soon she was not alone. The younger doll came into my room and proceeded to hug me from the front. I assured them that I was all right and that I wasn't going to leave them. They both still called me master, but something was different. They didn't speak in unison anymore. We went downstairs and I greeted all the women in the house. Even the children came over to give me a hug, which I accepted without hesitation. The children seemed to have grown a bit, making me wonder again, how long was I out? Though another question was far more pressing. What's for dinner? I was able to get a bit of a snack as they informed me about what happened. Well, I guess my hypothesis was correct. Being part lizard means that I'm going to go into hibernation during the winter months. On the downside, I miss the holiday season. On the plus side, less resources are needed to sustain the group. This explained why it was so easy to eat all the attackers, even though I shouldn't have been that hungry. Speaking of which, the house had been fixed up and the gear remaining was put to good use. The men used it to trade with and receive some tools from the neighbor. They were also able to obtain a few luxury items, mainly board games, for the kids. The adults were fine, with a little bit of quiet time and, of course, a little drink. I had to chuckle at that last one since my change, I physically can't drink, at least not alcohol. The winter months had put to good use while I was out. A lot of equipment had been repaired and the animals were in very good health. The only issue was keeping enough wood burning to keep the house hot enough. They could keep it comfortable, of course, but keeping the pipes from freezing was another matter all its own. As they finished up telling me about what happened, I heard a scream from outside. We all ran out to see what was going on, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. In the sky were 4 flying creatures, lumbering very clumsily through the sky. They seemed to be heading our way, and I extended my wings in order to take flight. I didn't look, but the popping of my joints must have made everybody a bit nervous, as I could hear a few of them tell me to stop, but I didn't. Climbing my way to the roof, I got ready to fly, and I could hear someone call my name. Looking down, and my female companions were all looking up at me. I smiled back and yelled, "I'll be right back." Taking flight, I glided up to the 4 creatures. Their flight patterns were very strange, amateurish even. Even though I didn't have much energy, I still wasn't going to let a threat anywhere near this farm. Getting closer, I wasn't sure I was seeing what I was seeing. They looked like me. What the fuck? Sure enough, as I got close enough, I could see them clearly. These were our lizard neighbors, and all 4 of them had wings. They all saw me as I approached and started yelling for me. I waved back and tried to get closer, but 2 of them almost hit me as I approached. "Need a few lessons?" I yelled at them as they responded with the definite forms of "Yes!" After telling them to follow me back, I got a first-hand look at how bad they truly were at this, and particularly flying. I mean, I was able to touch down next to my 3 felines. All of them came up and gave me a big hug. The changes to them were more than just a little apparent. The 2 youngest had changed so much that you could barely tell that they were feline anymore. I was a bit confused without any fur, but I could still tell who was who. Both of them looked like they were something out of a manga, whatever the hell you call those things. I mean, they still retained their cat ears, their tails, and a few other features that showed their feline heritage, whether it be on their feet or maybe the shape of their nose, but it was pretty obvious. The third one looked much closer to feline lady from the comics. The actual American comics, just not as tall, and of course, her jet black fur that still shined even in the daylight. I was about to admire him, but the show was about to start. Each of the 4 lizards tried to land, but would either come down too fast or stop too early and drop the last 10 to 20 feet. The one male said, "I think I broke my ass." Being in a good mood, I simply stated, "You can't. Your tail's in the way." He gave me the "you're an asshole" look as he got up, still rubbing his butt. We began to ask them how they got wings, and they proceeded to explain what happened when they got back to the house. It had taken longer for them to get to their house since a few of them were still feeling the sleep coming their way, and they were fighting it hard. That is until they got about a couple 100 yards away from the house. That's when they heard the first shot being fired. Rushing in, they could see the house was under siege, but it was by a group of those bats that I had fought off before. I apologized for not being able to help, but the sleep had taken me already at that point. I was told by all of them, "It's all right," before they continued. They used the forest as cover and used ambush tactics to get the first wave. They figured after taking the first few out, the rest would run, but they were not so lucky. Our other male lizard had took out another one of the bats and was driving his talons into its back when he started yelling obscenity, saying, "You better fly off or I'll eat you!" To make his point, he took a bite out of the bat's neck, and this actually finished it off, and standing defiant as he began to eat. That is when one came in and went claw to claw with him. While they clawed at each other, a second one came in and landed on the male, sinking its front and rear talons into him before carrying him away into the night. I had to ask, front and rear? They responded that all the bat types now had wings on their backs, not on their forelimbs. This confused the hell out of me since the last time I tangled with them, they were a mix, but I didn't push the issue. They continued by saying that the bat seemed to be targeting their snake. She spent the entire fight just dodging attacks in an attempt to get inside. To the bat, she must have looked like a really good meal. They must have noticed the look on our faces because they assured us that she got away, unlike them. She just had to not come out of hibernation yet. When she does, they said we were going to like the modifications. It only took about 10 minutes for the bats to just give up and leave as they were just losing the fight. Fighting creatures and darn humans was just a losing scenario. After the fights, the humans didn't want anything to do with the bats, so the lizards did what we do. They chuckled a bit when they mentioned that, like me, they didn't eat the heads. Jokingly, one of the females said, "If we had, we wouldn't look so damn good." Not saying out loud, I do have to say she was right. The influx of humans she ate made her human features much more pronounced, while the bat she ate gave her a very nice set of wings. When the females stood up and walked, I could see on the human males' faces that they were thinking, "Dang, that's sexy." It didn't matter to me since I already had my girls, but if I didn't, maybe. Oh, damn it, you lizard brain. You frickin' lizard brain, knock it off in there. I shook off the idea as we continued talking about how things had progressed. Though they didn't do as well as we had, their house had made it through the winter just fine. With the majority of the tenants asleep for the winter, all curled up together, the provisions lasted far longer than they had anticipated. The humans and canine types had come out and enjoyed the snow without losing anyone else and even had some fun. As it turns out, being partial canine means you enjoy the snow much more than people realize. Just think how any other dog bounces through the snow. After a while, we realized it was getting late in the day, so I had to give them flying lessons before they hurt themselves going back. They didn't need the same lesson I had. That is, crashing into that damn tree. Still makes me hurt when I think about it. I mean, ouch. So I started with form and worked on balance. It wasn't long before I found out that they were trying to flap their wings. I cursed them out since that doesn't work with us. I mean, you can, but it isn't going to do much more than just wear you out. We don't fly, we glide. By the end of the day, they had gotten it down pretty well, and it was nice to have others in the skies with me. Plus, we could scout further now and find more food. Guess I should outfit them with some bug blades before too long. I even told them this, and one of the females was so grateful she hugged my arm. This not only upset the male in her group, but also the other girls. Kindly, I removed her from my arm and bid them good night. Watching them fly off after climbing the nearest tree was a sight to behold. Perhaps this is what everyone thought when I take to the winds. No time to think about it now. Now it's time for supper. I guess tomorrow I'll go out and see how the other neighbors fared. Though, thinking about it, I'd better put my armor on before I go. Oh crap, is it even gonna fit now?